Thanks a lot, Internet. You were wrong. This is an LS starter. They said it would fit as long as the starter had a 168 tooth, but something tells me it was AI that was talking, and I got fucked. Wonderful. Just wonderful. Shit about LS motors, and I just thought I was getting a cheaper starter. God damn it. Okay, so this is this end of the heater box, and this is a bracket that I bought. It was a pair of brackets I bought for the condenser. It was listed as a condenser bracket. I only used one because the condenser bolted right to the fan bolted right to the was it the fan? No, it was the condenser bolting to the radiator supports that I had. So I went directly on two, and this one I went in the middle to hold it up. And it's a really, really heavy bracket. I mean, I had to use a grinder to cut this, and I didn't use the little end. And I put a bolt from the other side, and with a spacer, and then I put a nut there, and then a washer. So all that stays in there, and it's tight, so that when you unscrew this, it doesn't loosen from the other side. So, and then you can see, it's like, I don't want to say perfect, but, oh yeah, it is. I mean, that's right. I would just put a slight little push right here. It's nothing. It's, you know, it's not a perfect anything, but right there, I'm probably going to drill 2 holes, and then just put plastic rivets in it, because it's already holding up on its own. It's like, it's really not even a big deal, you know. It's basically holding the weight, that thing. So it's pretty nice, you know. And like I said, it's only off because, you know, this is on a curved firewall, but it's like just a slight push like that. But even then, it's not even necessary. It's not like it's going to put extra load on it or anything like that. So it looks pretty good. All right. So after putting together all these little parts and hacking up the, I don't know why it's so bright. All right, so after hacking up all these pipes I had, it's actually looking like something. Now, I tack welded everything together, so I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to make sure it comes out. That's going to be wonderful. But I didn't want to put anything on the end here just yet. I kind of want to make it 2 1/4 instead of 2 inch, because that's basically what that piece is there, although that's like, it's kind of on a bent phase right there. The way they originally did it was make it like, maybe it was 2 1/8, and they shrunk it down to make it fit there. This is a whole different piece I put on there, but if this can come out, then perhaps if I put a little extra there I want to put some kind of flange that's removable. Not exactly sure what to do yet, but I have it going, you know, pretty much over the idler arm here, so it shouldn't be an issue with clearance. Everything here should not be an issue with clearance. These are bolted tight. I got the sintered metal donuts on there because they're hard metal, and you just wing them down, you make them tight, and they pretty much tighten up evenly. It's very hard not to. So hopefully I did this right. Got my little plastic clips in there, and there's room for adjustment. I ended up pushing it all the way up, and inside there I got even smaller ones. I just went with the drill bit sideways just to sneak in there, and I got this from Amazon. There's like a ton of these different clips and everything. They're kind of cheap, but you know, it's not really doing much. And I would have liked them to have been longer, you know, but it worked, you know, so all good with that. Excuse me, the hiccups. What else? I'm probably going to go to an exhaust place that I know to help me with this Y pipe. Now, I did a good job. I mean, altogether, it worked good, but I couldn't see this, and I got a big gap there. And I started welding it, and I'm like, these are not great welds. And I don't want to keep having to. The last time I built the Y pipe, it was like ridiculous. You know, like I kept putting a soapy water on it, and then I would blow a shop vac through it, and it just, all the welds just kept leaking and leaking and leaking, and I keep going over it and over it and over it. You know, what pissed me off though, I'm looking inside there, and that hole is very small. It's like an inch, and I'm like, I think I remember doing this with the other one, and I think in the end I had made my own and made the hole much bigger, and you could feel the difference. I mean, that's like maybe 1 inch. What a scam. Never buy a Y pipe. I went and I bought the Y pipe to use it, and I'm like, it's not even close, you know, to the size of the pipe. You know, that's pretty sad. That's extremely sad. But I mean, overall, it came out very good. And the only other thing I want to make is something like this. Now, I want, like, you know, this size, you know, the outside diameter on there to be welded on. And then in the end, have this guy with a bigger, you know, because this was supposed to be 2 1/4, and all they did was shrink it down to make it work, however they do it. But I don't know if the guy has a plasma cutter or something to make that bigger. That's like a sin, a big sin, you know. How the hell do you correct that? That's really not right. I mean, you could just tell from the size of that to the size of that, you know. See? That's a huge difference as far as I'm concerned. And that's only 2 inch pipe, you know. So one universal pipe from AutoZone, one Chevy Y pipe that I cut up, and I used the other side on this side, and this is an Oldsmobile pipe that I used, and then I cut it and rotated it to make it work with this, you know. And then this is part of the 2 1/4 that it was stemming from here. I think from this part, I think it was attached to this, you know. And I kept expanding it. It was funny how it, you know, didn't really want to go over, because, you know, when it bends, it shrinks it a little. So yeah. So I shall see what I can do here. I don't know how many guys can make the flare, you know. So I was thinking of a flare, because I don't know if I can do the rest of the exhaust system. It's really small for this engine when you think about it. That's why I at least wanted to do a 2 1/4 on the outskirts of it. But I was thinking, even if you used one of these guys and put it in there and use the ball on the other side, and it'll at least hold the thing together and make it serviceable. But even with extra thing in it, I can get this Y pipe in and out. So that ends up being pretty cool. But, you know, I hate when I see the shit welded. A lot of guys, yeah, we just weld it. You know, what happens if the training goes bad? You got to go to an exhaust shop after you're done. I mean, sometimes I guess training shops are you know, fitted for that. But, you know, it's just an extra expense. It's, you know, I hate disturbing stuff. I like stuff to be, you know, engineered so that, you know, yeah, you do these modifications, but you can still work on the car, you know, without, you know, it's no different than a Chevy, you know, regular Chevy. Now, granted, some of them have the slide-in one, but you can usually pull out the whole catalytic converter with the Y pipe. So I'm hoping they can do something without killing me on the price, because everybody's running out of money. Lots of welds there. Unfortunately, it was expensive. But he really goes over the welds, you know. First of all, where I welded it wasn't making it easy for him. But now this is going to be totally removable. It's 2 1/4 on the outside, you know, and this is going to last. I'm going to paint it, and you know, unfortunately, it was $100, and I had to tip the guy $20, the kid, you know. But Sorry for the mess in my car. But it is what it is, because there's no Y pipe you can buy, and if I put it in there and it leaked, plus I can't do, I probably couldn't do something like this. I mean, he did a lot, and then he gave me the mating piece, so it was worth it. Guys charge like $30 to weld each weld. I mean, somebody recently charged me $50 to weld one weld, and there's 6 welds on here, so that he had to do. And that's the thing. It's like if you go to a guy like this and just have him do the pipe, one half of the pipe is in one pipe, and then the other pipe is in the other pipe, and then he supplies the material, and it costs about the same, and it's a little cleaner and neater, obviously, but it's one of those things where I need to button up the engine because it's so loud. I can't possibly tune it. I can't move the car even, I can't test drive it, so something has to be done to make it quieter. So I did it as good as I could for what it was, but I think it's going to work out pretty well. It never ends, and I had to renew my Harbor Freight thing. What the hell is it? $135. They got these guys for cheap, but I don't know how much they're going to really do. But then I grabbed something that was $7.99, but then it said for wood. So these are solid carbide. They were $70, but it was $20 off if I was the member. So they had 2 years for the member for $44 now, where it was just $30 a year. So $30 is 1 year. So I took, I took the 2-year one, and it actually saved me money on this thing. Cost me only $25, but still I spent $135 just to address the hole that I didn't like in the Y pipe, because the guy said, "No, I'm not doing that." So not much I can do. I got to do it myself. But this is the job. What it ends up costing me every single step along the way, I have to buy something to make something work. So what I meant by that last video is that my gripe with buying an aftermarket Y pipe, which is this part here, I thought, okay, this saves me a lot of time, and normally it does. But I don't know if you can see in there. That hole on the bottom there, that's very small. Compared to that hole, it's very small. And you can see they just basically made like a 1-inch hole. And the guy was like, yeah, he said some are only the size of a quarter. And I'm like, yeah, I saw that last year. So I spent $135 to renew my membership and to buy these things and to get this longer die grinder to see if I can get in there and try to clean it up a little bit to make it a little bit better, because that's going to make a difference. Alrighty, so it doesn't quite look like I did much, but I really did. It's oval now. It's very close to this size. I mean, there's probably still a lip. You gotta like bring some. It's tiny in comparison to what it was. This side is open. Back here is open. I got a little bit more maybe on this side. And the inner side, it looks like I'm just about there. Like that's where the hole originally was, pretty much. So I'm not quite sure how you saw the first video, but now that I just sprayed paint in there, it's like huge now. Let's see. I'm also not sure if you can see because I'm like in direct sunlight, but I don't want to get paint on my phone. But that's the main, and then you see right there, it's a big oval hole. It looks round here, but it's actually deep and oval. It's the same size when you look at the profile here. When you look at the profile, it's that big. So it's actually almost bigger. And that's actually good. It shouldn't be smaller. This one should be bigger when it's on an angle like that. So you can really take advantage of, the two, not take advantage, but yeah, take advantage of the situation with the fact that the two gases are banging into each other, even though they never really bang into each other because they're all at different times. They're just a microsecond apart from each other, so there's always room. But you don't want to have that little, I mean, that thing was like the size of a half a dollar, So I'm glad that worked out. It made me a lot happier. because I don't do shit like that, you know. But that's a sin that they're even making Y pipes like that. How lazy can you be? But you know, then I guess it comes out perfect every time as far as your welds are concerned. I guess if they made it right to the edge, it would be an issue, you know. But they should make that a better way somehow. I just used the electric ratchet, but so it might have to be tighter. But this like really looks pro, you know. And that flange I had to make is definitely not in the way of anything. It's not even in the way of the tranny, you know. Like the rest of the exhaust doesn't seem to be a huge like you can pull out this tranny probably without actually taking out the exhaust, but it's able to, just in case. The starter is going to fit, of course. I made plenty of room for it. This is a pretty amazing feat that I did here. I must say this came out really nice. I'm very proud of this. You know, I'm sure this video is not doing it any justice, but it came out really good. And you know, like I was saying, the straight down ram horn manifolds, I might have been able to find a Y pipe, but there's still no telling it would actually go, because this is a Stark 90 I have coming off here, because this is a 45, so it would have like it technically could work. But here's the thing: if you have the exhaust pipe coming straight down, you're blocking this motor mount bolt. It's very close to the brake lines, and the you know, like it would still have to come off at an angle, because it would dump probably a little higher up, but straight down right here. And it looked like it was too close to this and too close to that, and then it would be the same thing on this side. I can't say what it looks like on other Chevys, because obviously they have to remove the motor mounts, but you never know in another chassis. But I mean, this thing really came out good. I mean, I'm just shocked. Now I just got to adapt something to make it work with the existing exhaust, unless I end up changing it. But I don't really know what to do. I don't know if we could put, maybe it's a lot of money, but the flathead exhaust, it could probably be put in and then just adapted to this end, you know? So pretty cool, I must say. Took off the clamp, heated the hell out of it, and I've been using crayon and just whacking it with a hammer. No damage to the pipe, and it's probably a little bit rounder now that it forced its way out of the where the clamp was. So we'll see. This is one of the contraptions I put on the battery. I put a side terminal, which is a great idea, but I leaned on it, and it bent, and I was bending it back, and I kind of don't trust anybody else not leaning on it. These things are all made out of zinc now, the good ones. I'm not sure. These might be lead, but they're very heavy, you know. And I got a Duralast. Like I said, they're made out of zinc, so they're solid metal. They just don't bend or break or, you know, get soft under heat or anything like that. So should be fine now after this. Okay, so the owner is experimenting with clear 3D printing, which this ended up working out. You know, he only had blue and red. He may try to get black. He may try to make these things. I don't know. But what I do know is that there's a little bit of problem here with this wiring. First of all, the wiring I was using fit fine, but it can like bend and break. I was trying to put heat shrink tubing, which I can still do, and it worked. But I was trying to get it on this lip. It's a little shiny. So if I put it only on the orange and get something smaller and use smaller wiring, which I ordered, okay, I still have the problem with the connections not being able to be undone. So it's like, then you got to make a plug. So if I make if I use one of those big plugs, okay, just for instance, what ends up happening is that the plug gets in the way of coming out. So you got to cut the wires. So that's what I had to do to show them this, to get this out anyway. And it looks like the old one is not charging for whatever reason. I got to figure that out. But what I bought was this. This is one of those things that quick disconnect the wires, but in a very safe manner. And then you can always wrap it in tape, at least on one side. So I'm going to probably put the 16 gauge in there, that's sitting here, and then I'm going to put 18 gauge in here and then snap it in, because when all is said and done, okay, and I figured this would work. This is a 16 millimeter thing, and the dimensions of this was like 0.57 by 0.51, and it fits through. Fits through with room to spare. So this is what you want. When you make the small regular connections, I suppose you could do it too, but they actually start to get big. I mean, especially then you have to make one longer than the other. So let's just say this one is not much different, not much wider than the thing. This is just an empty thing, but in any case, if I made some kind of quick disconnect, it could definitely work. But I like this. This is probably the right thing to use. It can't pull out. It's more permanent, but yet you can still take it out. That's what I like about it. So I think I'm going to use these. There's another one actually I bought too. That may look like it's more heavy duty. Tomorrow I'm going to clean the garage. I promise. This is something I bought on me. This is the 18 gauge wire that I bought. And I bought these guys, okay? And I figured these might fit as well. Let me just put my phone between my legs for a second. So these guys are enticing as well, okay? They're a little heavier. Okay, let's see what happens here. Yeah, no fucking way. Yeah, they had some numbers that didn't seem right, and yeah, this ain't fitting through. The only benefit is that you put it in, you just disconnect it, because I mean, really, it would be no big deal then at that point. But you kind of have to disconnect it from outside. Whereas, yeah, you got to pull nut from the back side. But rather than messing with it so much, you can just pull it out of the dashboard, have the wires in your hand, and then unplug them. So either way it works. But I kind of like the nut completely coming off. Because I think this just lifts up and it locks in. So that was the cool thing about that, where this thing just pretty much you shove the wire in there and you lock this down. So there's not really much reason to take these lights out anyway. But I just like I'm so crazy when it comes to like engineering shit. Like I would want it to be not saying perfect, but flawless in the sense that you got to be able to work on it. Like you don't have to tear apart a whole bunch of stuff to get to it, let's say. So that was my idea. And like I said, I can still go with this. It depends, like when I clamp this down, if it seems very cheesy or something like that. But I can very easily just pop this out and pop the wires out. Like I said, if there's enough length, you could pull the whole thing through and then work in your hand out of the hole. I can do that now, in fact. I can hook this up, put the connections over here. I can even wrap tape around this, and ultimately, it's not going to be an issue no matter what. But I would probably tape one side, But this is more conducive to being like almost permanent, where this is kind of meant to be lifted up and released, and then you push it back and it locks. This is kind of cool now that I'm looking at it. But and it was like 22 gauge to 12 gauge, so I thought that was kind of cool. And it doesn't look like this is going to short out anywhere or anything like that. And you can actually, there's 2 points here to test it on, I guess. I'm sure this is something like that, so maybe not. We'll see. Yeah, either way, but I kind of like that, not having to deal with the nut. The nut is not really an issue in this case. Not sure how much weight this adds and stuff like that, but it's interesting. I like how this locks, and you can just leave it unlocked when you're removing it. Not that you ever have to remove these. Like I said, I'm crazy like that. Because you know what it is about plugs, you got to do one male, one female, so you don't mess them up and stuff like that. But that's not too much of an issue, I'll see. I'll see which one is easier to deal with. You know, kind of like this. But this goes through that nut. I think that really does help in a certain sense. But this is probably more the long-term solution because it's probably not going anywhere. So that's that. Just wanted to show that. This is a marvel of engineering. And after 20 welds, it finally stopped leaking. I was using a spray bottle and some compressed air to keep checking it, but the first time I got it, I didn't even test it because it looked good, but it wasn't. But I had to put a lot of weld over here, but I had to grind it down, but it went on, and this is going to be short, but I'm going to put a 2-inch oversized, go over, and I cut the other piece, so that one's going to I cut like 2 inches off that one, but it'll be welded at the same angle back over there, and this should line up with that. I'm just using that fat gasket right there, which got kind of crushed, but it should seal that round donut thing right there. So it came with one of the sets of manifolds I had. So that'll make up for the fact that it should be a ball. And yeah, I didn't have the guy make the ball because I know it's going to be like a tight thing. So it's something that somebody can maybe make in one fell swoop, or do something I'm doing here where you go inside and you make that work. This is a ball that the guy gave me, but this is 2 1/4, and right now we're just utilizing the same exhaust system there. That can all get done at the same time. So they may have to get like a tight 45 like I got and cut it real tight and then weld it in and then do the same kind of bend. There should be room for it. It's only a 1/4 inch bigger, but it really should be 2 1/4 at the very least. And yeah, I mean, it's technically possible to even do 2 1/2. These are really big flanges here that will line up, because these are the flanges that were off the Y pipe, and it was supposedly supposed to be bigger because they're bigger than the other ones that were also 2-inch. These are 2-inch, but they're from the Oldsmobile engine, and they're smaller. They're physically smaller, so I wanted the bigger one just to give more options. Don't do that, doggy. Hey, doggy. And so I think this thing should be quiet next time I get it running. I sent back the carburetor to Holly. They're going to redo it for free. And I still haven't really messed with this one on the car because it's just too loud to even mess with. It's probably, need to go further to rebuild it, but it should run the car, I moved the distributor over because I know that was one of the issues. That's why the idle was high, but until I could get it actually running and I revved it, it went slow coming down. I took this apart again because for some reason, the alternator is not charging, which is bothering me. And no matter what I do, I'm like, yeah, I got the right one. I hope. I tried opening these two again to see if there was any other issue. So it would really suck if it didn't work out of the box, or it's some weird thing that it needs a regulator to run it, because these aren't usually like that. So more fuckery. Don't know what I'm doing yet with that. And what else? I changed this end here, put a zinc one on, and he's still printing the center console and stuff like that. And I'm waiting for the starter. That's the main thing. I'm waiting for the other starter because this starter is just junk. I keep having problems with it, so hopefully the other one will go on without much issue, and get through the Y pipe. I believe the way I made the Y pipe that a full-size old-style Chevy starter should fit even, So yeah, I could have welded all this with the Y pipe, but I didn't want to keep heating it up, and because sometimes when you heat it up, you change it. This is really only on one plane here, and I didn't want the Y pipe to leak, on them, So this stuff, it's not a big deal if it leaks a little tiny bit. Although I think I buttoned it up. This is going to be harder because something I'm going to have to weld in the car unless I put clamps or put one of those band clamps, which I might do. I might buy 2 band clamps and be done with it, and it should, make up for it. Although it's a little funny on one end, so I just take my time. I can weld it around, but the one that's in between, I may be able to do something else. I don't know. I shall see. But it's like that much space, so I wanted to weld the sleeve, on the end, and then have it go over, and maybe I can use a band clamp on that, and then just try to weld the other one all the way around. The whole exhaust system kind of fell back towards the back of the car. It was forward because there's a clamp that is right up against the what do you call it? It's right up against the hole. I was debating whether or not to just even eliminate this clamp. It's probably so rusty that it's not going to come out, but I mean that's got to make noise, and it just to make sure that I weld it, in the center. It's actually like right there. It's not touching, but I just wonder if it was like slightly forward more. I suppose I can get a new clamp, cut that clamp off and move it in a different position. Or, like I said, take this clamp off. And I'm probably going to just wedge something in here to pull it forward, just to give me a little extra room, a hunk of metal or something like that. And so this guy here, I cut like 2 inches off the bottom here, but I kept the angle, so it continues on the same angle. And then right here, where this comes down, it'll go right straight on, because I cut out a section of this as well. Not that I cut off too much, really, but it may appear that way. But in the end, it was for the better angle and for ease of putting this in after I'm done. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with this just yet. Like I said, I'm not sure about band clamps. I'm not sure about, because sometimes they don't, they usually hold, It's just around these curves. You see this right here? There's a bend here, so it's a little hard to do that. The thing is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to weld on top of this very well, or at all. Or he's going to have to just get one piece welded then at least. I'm going to try to make all this stuff good. And, I mean, technically I could just, I don't know if it's going to come out that easy in the car, That was the other thing. It's like, do you make another thing? Not that I would put a flange again, but just like they said, the band clamp, that way it can be separated. Not 100% sure. I'm not sure how long he's going to have this really shitty exhaust system on the car. So, only so much I can do, And even the pipe here, it's bent over here, so there's a few angles to deal with. I mean, it really needs a 2 1/4 complete complete exhaust system. Yep. So that's basically it. But I think I'll be able to get this thing hooked up, and that way it won't be so annoyingly loud, because I can't hear myself think when this is running. And that's it. I think it's overall pretty darn good for what this is. And what else? I guess that's basically it. I'm waiting for parts right now. So now I can hear myself think. I don't have the exhaust done. I kind of have a pipe just slipped on, but it's a lot quieter. It took me a while to get it running. New starter it sounded great, and then I lowered the car down, and then I tried to start it again, and it absolutely sounds like shit now. Another fucking problem. But fucking intake manifold makes no fucking sense. I don't know if I'm not supposed to. I mean, I used the one that was 87 and up. I am dumbfounded. So, I don't know anymore. I really don't. I don't know if this is Amazon special intake manifold. But it's definitely leaking when you spray some starting fluid. The aisle changes. And it was funny because I knew I felt it running weird, and I'm like, I can't believe the intake is leaking if that's the case. And sure enough, it's fucking leaking. fucking mind-boggling. Not happy. As good as I got it to run, I mean, I literally put my finger right here in this corner, and it leaks. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I lined up the gasket wrong, but it's also leaking on this side. I've already sprayed it too, so I don't know. I really don't. More on that side, but it changed when I sprayed it on this side too. Boy, everything likes to put a wrinkle in everything. Every fucking part I've touched, it just seems like nothing stays fixed or stays running or out of the box does what it's supposed to do. And I think part of the reason why, because it didn't start, I had to crank it a lot. I went underneath, I didn't see anything really wrong with the flywheel, but that sounds like absolute fucking a horror show. It sounded perfect when I first put it in. Mind-blowing. Fucking mind-blowing. Unreal. At this point, I might just put in a stock Chevy starter, because I bought the one that was meant for like the late 90s, and it sounded great. It really did. I'm beginning to think it's the flywheel. 3 starters can't, or 2 starters can't be all that bad, I think. Damn it. More problems. Bad news. Big Bertha don't fit no matter what I do. So I can't even use an original style starter. Yeah. Like, I suppose I could use it if I took out the Y pipe, but then how are you gonna get the Y pipe in? Fucking bummer. Okay, so the other starter got returned, I should say. This one here I bought off somebody off Facebook Marketplace. He said he had it bolted to his engine for like 15 years or something like that. It was from Jegs, so it's an older school one. It actually looks more heavy duty. I've bought a starter like this before, this style, and I don't think it spins as fast, but it's able to hold more, able to hold more compression, so turn the same speed under more compression. We don't have that issue, but the point is I just need a starter to fit and fucking work. What I kind of like about this is that this has the original 9 teeth. The modern ones have 11 teeth, and by doing so, the gear is out here. So if there's a imperfection in the flywheel, I think it may kick over more. Where this one is so tight, it's very hard to make that happen. So I'm hoping it works. I don't know what else to do at this point other than change the flywheel, but the flywheel doesn't look terrible. It really doesn't. With the last one, it looks like it messed up the planetary gear inside. So this one here definitely has a planetary gear, because you can see how far offset it is from the other motor. Like, the other ones are usually direct drive, but I think they still have like a planetary in there, where one is spinning 3 gears, and then it goes back to 1. So I'm not sure how exactly that works. Can't remember how many starters I took apart, but this one definitely has gear reduction. And like I said, being that it may be an old school Jegs one, it may have been made better because they had better quality control. Now just everything just gets pumped out of China and whatnot. So for $65, I think it's a good choice. The only other choice I wanted, which was another one for $65 for $15 for shipping for a used one, but it was like an AutoZone label on it, and it's from like a 97 K1500 Suburban, let's say, and they call it a direct magnet or magnet something or other. Permanent magnet, that's what it is. Permanent drive magnet, something like that. So I'm going to give this a try, and I just had to convert. What I did is I made a little wire that has straight with an eye loop, and I put a little nut and bolt for the eye loop, and I taped it up, and I'll see how this works. Does fucking anything go right? So this one doesn't have 360-degree clock positions, but I moved it one because it was hitting the exhaust, And now it's still hitting the exhaust. I can't go up all the way. It's like it's close but no cigar kind of thing. Let me see something. Nope. Hang on. Nope. I'm holding it up against the block and trying to get that inside bolt. And basically the body of the starter is hitting here, even though I rotated it this way. I suppose I can rotate it 180 degrees. Oh well. So thinking the only solution is revolving at 180 degrees, so this is facing the bottom. As you can see, the bolt holes are here now. My problem is, number one, the wires don't reach, which is a pain in the ass. But number two, okay, is it's the bolts that go through here. Come on, wind. The bolts that go through here. So this is where I would be looking up into the engine, let's say. The bolt is going through. Yeah, I could put a shorter bolt, but I'm like, between the other problem, I'm like, I just can't fucking win. I don't know. This is just getting really, really horrible now. So, I don't know. I might take off this guy and see if it'll work with that one. I'm thinking not, because it's the bigger gear. But, it's quite disturbing. Everything I do fucking turns to shit. Yeah. Different animal. It's all blocks are different. This blows. It really does. I'm fucking fed up. Alright, so I'm taking off the intake manifold. As you can see, I got most of the bolts out, but this one bolt, and then it reminded me the problem I had with this, and the reason why this thing is leaking. The reason why it's leaking is because you can probably see here that I grinded this. I had started on most of the bolts. I put all the right stuff, that silicone on there and everything, and I realized, I'm like, I can't get this bolt in. So then I start grinding it, and then after I think I have it grinded enough, I can't even get the head of the bolt. So now I didn't have an Allen key bolt. I had to run to Ace Hardware. So I kind of had the bolts partially tightened in, thinking that I was okay, but when I got the bolt, I had to grind it more. It still wouldn't go in. Then I had to loosen all the bolts and lift it up a little bit to get it in. I just didn't think I'd have this kind of leak, but apparently it's leaking, so there's not much I can do about it now. But ultimately, that was that's the thing. So I had a problem. I had to leave it for, like 20 minutes, and by then some of the silicone hardened up, and what I thought was going to be fine was not. So that's what happened there. That's why it's leaking. There's a reason for everything. I'm going to take off this alternator too, because it don't start. It don't charge, and I'm going to bring it to the auto parts store to have them check it, see what the deal is with it, because I don't know if I have it on the wrong wire or what. So we'll find out. Okay, I had to peel up from the corner here. This side up, so I have that in right. The only thing I looked on the instructions, not on the instructions, but like when I was looking at new ones, it had this thing as an intake port, as a water port, but it has the bump up here, so that's definitely an exhaust thing. Not sure if we got the older intake or the newer intake. I had done research on it at the time, but so the motor's pretty clean and all this and that. So I'm thinking that perhaps this is like warped over here, because I'm just not seeing. See, I put the right stuff on the edge here. I didn't put it on the intake ports, and now I wish I did. But it was pretty hard to get off, so it would be this side. And both sides were leaking though, so I'm just trying to figure out where was the gasket touching here. I guess right about there. Unless this thing is so fragile that it fucking flexes. I hope it's not cracked. Hope somebody, because you can see a parting line there from the cast. Oh, you hope it's from that. You got it all the way down that one too. But I don't see this being a crack on the top here. It would be leaking from the top. It was definitely leaking from under the gasket. So there's nothing unusual here. Absolutely nothing unusual. It's very frustrating. Very, very, very frustrating. So, oops. And it's like, what do you do? I guess I got to put silicone on all the things. So something is warped or something. 90314-1. I thought this was the 87 and up ones, but it's possible that because it's the manifold's supposed to do both, and from what I understand, there's no difference. You know. Thing is, see over here. You have this guy here. It's not sealing on anything, but I don't think that matters. You know. What the hell would make it leak from that top corner there? I can't say that it looks overly compressed, but I mean, the only thing I can say is that the silicone held it up, you know, as far as me going to the store and trying to find that bolt. Mind-boggling. Simply mind-boggling. What a waste. Waste of time, waste of money. I don't know how that oil got in there. Probably it was on here and it was leaked down. Yeah, so because it coats oil over here. Yeah, now I gotta wait for the gasket. You know, maybe the block is, you know, I cleaned it all off with the cookie disc, but it's like you can see the spot where the old gasket is. You know, so it's not like I fucking went crazy. You know, can I say it's perfectly level? I'm not 100% sure. Always something. Mind-boggling. This side was leaking too, though. So I really feel now that if I had just put silicone on the intake ports as well, I know some guys who do that. I opt not to do that usually because it's usually not an issue because the vacuum actually sucks everything in. You know, this was a Felpro gasket. I'm getting the same Felpro gasket too. The thing is, I think I bought an Apex gasket, and I think it was a Felpro in the box, maybe. I don't know anymore. Like these. Oh, wait a minute. These are these adapters. I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. The adapters hitting these guys here because it's basically you hold it. You use one set of adapters for the center bolt valve covers, which are these, and the other one for the other ones. Cheap manifold, you know, it's like, how many cheap shit things can I buy? You know, I guess I should have read the reviews, but definitely had a vacuum leak for sure. Huge. That's why the idle was so high. I was blaming the other carburetor, but I don't, you know, the other carburetor had issues, but it really just needed a accelerator pump. But still, it wasn't right. But mine was running the same way with the high idle. I got it to go down. Part of it was the timing was a tooth off, but even then, it usually doesn't go up that high, you know. And once I got the engine to quiet down with the exhaust, then I heard a whistle over here. And I'm like, I started sticking my finger in here, and it was changing. And then I sprayed it. It definitely went up. You know, it straightened out the idle. So I just can't believe how much freaking headache I have with this. It's crazy, but I really think it stems that I didn't initially, you know, bolt it down because that fucking bolt. So anytime you do an aftermarket intake, you should check all your bolts because in the end, if you had to do what I did and get because like I got an Allen key head for that one right there, but I still had to grind more off, you know. So I was kind of going crazy there for a while. So man, my God. I hope those adapters aren't anything funny, but I mean, technically, depending which way they go, yeah, that's even with no matter which, there's only one right way to go, but yeah, they only go towards yeah, I guess this way, right, because it's more of a straight up and down. Oh no, that's the angle, that doesn't go like that. So yeah, this is actually, it makes more sense, because when I don't know if you can see that, yeah, so this is in the pocket here, and then when you look at it from this side, it's completely level with the gasket. So what you see here is really just, you know, pinching it. Oh, it's funny, on this side I didn't see the pinch. Oh, wait a minute. Oh. Huh. That's interesting. And that was the that was the first one, I guess, the driver's side. That's why it was leaking less on the passenger side. And you can see they're down here. It's very possible the silicone held it up. The silicone on the ends, it just didn't allow it to really compress the gasket. I mean, you're only supposed to tighten it so tight, and I went around it 3 times, torqued it to spec. Huh. You know, you wonder if this gasket was holding it up because there's no ports, but then again, it would be, if anything, it contacts here. And you can see it doesn't go over here. So I'm quite bewildered. And it's not like I heard exhaust leaks coming from here or saw exhaust leaks, because I didn't have any silicone on the center. You know? Well, every port is getting silicone, I can tell you that much. It's going to be a big mess. It's fucking crazy. Stupid shit's got to happen. And at the wrong times, the wrong time in my life. I was happy and jovial when I was doing this in the beginning. Now it's become a burden. Unreal. All right. So the other day when I was trying to put in that starter and I couldn't get it past where I needed to get it past, I got it in upside down, but that is it. I kind of sprained my hand, my wrist. It's been in a lot of pain. So I took a day off yesterday and I went back to work now, and it's hurting. And the thing is, I'm trying to scrape off the stuff, and I can't scrape it because I'm a righty and I got to use it in my right hand. So I was just using the cookie disc there to get all this stuff off, and a big fucking wad of it got tied up in it, and it flung. And this, I don't know if it was this piece or another piece, but it hit me in my eye at about 1,000 miles an hour. And I don't know if there's something wrong there, but I didn't look in the mirror yet. But man, it's hurting right now. That hurt. I'm like, I don't believe how everything is fucking with me. So the intake manifold didn't seal. The starters, I'm going crazy with. The alternator doesn't charge. The longevity of the whole fucking project is taking longer than I expected. The carburetor was no good out of the box. The carburetor I just try to throw on is not the greatest. I don't know what else can go wrong. Apparently a lot, though. I better not wish it any more energy, because it may kick me back in the ass again. I would say that's a black eye. I don't know. It's hard to say. It might be black because the silicone was black, but man, I'm ugly. I got to get my glasses on. Oh, I don't know where they are. Probably under the car somewhere. Anyway, so hopefully things start looking up from this point on. Okay, I hope this is pertinent information, and I'll find out when I put this gasket on. But you can see how this one's lined up perfectly, and that one's all the way down. The top of this manifold is basically touching. And no matter how high I go up, it actually doesn't go in. So that could be something. However, I kind of remember having the gasket on, because, you know, if both of them go up, because it's at a 45-degree angle, it's all crazy. But you can see when I lift it up, that lines up, and that one lines up. So it's like this plane doesn't change, but this plane does. So I'm hoping that's what it is, because I'm pretty sure when I put it in, I was like, oh, it lines up perfectly, because I know the deck on the motor was milled. So if the deck is down, then the heads are down. But right now it shows the heads are up. But that's because it is like this. But I got to get the gasket, and then I'll get it back together. All right, so after spraining my hand the other day and having problems with that starter, the good news is the starter, I found one on eBay, and the starter is from Parts Authority, and the guy has the receipt with it as well. So I bought it for $80 plus tax, and he shipped it out today. In fact, you know, I asked him to do that, and so I'll be getting the warranty hopefully with that receipt. And if it's a lifetime warranty, that's a good thing. So that covers the starter. And that starter is a really good, you know, they call it permanent magnet, or you know, like forgot what they call it, magnet drive or something like that. Anyway, those are really good. I put one in before, but the thing is, they have a whole bunch of Chinese knockoffs, and they don't sound the same. They don't run the same. And being that all the problems I'm having with some of these Chinese starters, because the first one engaged just fine. It's just that it kept running on me. The second one I put in, it sounded good as soon as I put it in, and that what I thought it was that one. I got the 6449 number, and it was 6449 MS is the one I really had to look for. So that one was a direct drive. It still sounded fairly well, but as soon as I put the car on the ground, it started chopping up. So a lot of times with these Chinese starters, you have the planetary gear inside it, and they just change everything, including the planetary drive, which is a good thing in a certain sense, but if it's cheap and is worse than the original, what good is it? So the remanufactured ones are remanufactured in Mexico. I think they're way better, and at this point, and that's why they have to sell them for the price that they're going for. It's like $180. I'm not sure if that was with or without the core. The core was something like $60-something. So this one here, I had to pay a core, and I got it, and it's supposedly lifetime warranty, so the customer will be happy about that. That being said, the alternator here, I took it to my Advanced Auto Parts locally here, and they actually put on a machine and check it for me. Now, they couldn't tell me which wire went where, but when they checked it, it came up 100% working good, 14.5 volts. Now, this is the plug that I have bought, and I used to buy a plug that had only one extra wire in it besides this wire, and it worked the last time I did it. This time, though, it's not. So I don't know why it's doing that, other than I think I looked up the wrong. I found another what do you call it? I found another what do you call it? The wiring diagram. So if it's an external fan versus an internal fan, the internal fan looks like it has the red wire and one other wire for the light, which is the one I hooked up over here. So this one here, so this one here, the second one from the right here is for the light, and this one here goes right to the battery. And then this one here is like for the computer, signal. It's like a low voltage computer thing. And then this one here is supposed to be with the key on. So I'm not happy about that, only because I have to run another wire to the engine compartment then through the harness. And I have a couple ideas how I'm going to do it. Not a big deal, really. I think I want to make it fused, but it may give me an opportunity to put a separate wire for the choke as well, and I may hook up an oil pressure switch to the choke now that I have it all apart. So if I put an oil pressure switch, then when you put the key on, if you leave the key on, the choke won't start heating up, and then the choke opens too much, and then you got to pump a lot of gas to go. And being these chokes seem like they go so quick, it's better that if there's no oil pressure, it doesn't keep going, because sometimes you can start the car up and then it stalls on you, and then if you don't even know it stalls, like if you walk away from the car, and then what happens is that the key is on all the time, and then the choke heats up, and now it's even harder to start. So that's something I like to put in there. So yeah, so far these two parts are good, and I got the gasket in for the intake. I'll put that in tomorrow, and so far so good. A little bit of turnaround other than my health. I don't feel so good lately, so wish me luck. Of course, just starting to rain, and I just laid it on. I gooped up both sides a lot, and I just had enough. It was getting very hard to squeeze this thing. You never think you run out of these things, but it always does at the worst time. So I got to get these bolts in before it really starts to rain. Okay, rain calmed down, and ultimately I just had enough goop to put everywhere. I kind of went overboard a little bit here and there, but I even shoved it in the little corners here, just in case there's a geometry problem, because I hate to say it, Chinese intake manifold, it's not an Edelbrock. It looks like one, but it's not. So I'm really hoping this is not going to be an issue, but I put silicone on both sides of the gasket all over the place. I put more underneath because I didn't think about running out, but underneath probably wasn't really the issue. It was on top, but I still put plenty on top. Just having it on there it's got to be, and it was squeezing out. So, I don't see it being an issue. I had nothing there before, but again, it was more so, I think, because I had to run and get this bolt, and then even after I got the bolt, I had to grind the intake manifold just to get that bolt on. So always dry fit with the gaskets, and do any grinding that you need to do. You know, try to get the bolts all the way in without compressing the gasket, and then take it all off again, and then redo it, because it's kind of important, because you'll have to do what I just did. So hopefully this is good, and this solves the high idle issue and the vacuum issue that I obviously had after the fact, and we'll take it from there. But it's good that I'm doing it on a day that's crappy, because I got it in. I just got a window to get it in. I got it in. It's going to dry now, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to dry, and it's going to have plenty of time to dry, because, you know, a lot of times you can get this all running, and then it's not really 100% cured, you know, and then it moves. You know, before obviously it was cured, but like I said, it was more so the fitment issue with the silicone drying ahead of time. Unless there's a huge problem with the geometry of the intake, and the bolt holes, like I said, were actually still not perfectly aligned in the hole. It was definitely better on this side, but this side here, I was able to hand tighten them all by hand, so I don't really see that being an issue. I've seen a lot worse cases, so I've seen some where you have to force the bolts in. You know, don't know if that gives you more clamping force, but it's not something ultimately you want. You want it to go in relatively easy, but it's almost like the manifold had to be higher, or this head has to be high. Like, it's almost like they took way too much off this head and didn't at least make it even. Because if you make them even, what ends up happening, first of all, compression ratio is the same, and second of all, the what do you call it? The geometry remains the same, at least, you know. So they're both kind of in the same place. So this was a little weird, because then what can happen is if the intake manifold's at a 45-degree angle and the head is too far down, and by the time you clamp it, the bottom of the port closes, it touches or compresses the gasket. Like, I'm almost thinking like a composite gasket would have been better, but the only thing I can get in one day was Felpro, and it was like 3 times the money for the composite ones, you know, like Mr. Gasket and stuff like that, because they may crush a little bit more, you know, but obviously if it crushes so much and it squeezes out, it's not probably that good either in this case. That's why I just rather use the right stuff. The right stuff will definitely seal any vacuum leak. Sure fucking hope so, because that would be a real disaster. But it seems like, because the top of the intake manifold here, there's a little groove right here. You know, like there's like a bunch of metal here, and the manifold is pushed up against it, and the bolt hole is still all the way at the top. So the intake manifold seems like it would have to come higher, and can't come higher, so the head would have to come higher. So the head, I mean, look at the side of this head. It's like this one is way higher. So I don't know if that's just an anomaly with the way the intake manifold fits, or if this intake manifold is higher on this side than that side. Because you can see, like, the port comes all the way to the top here, right there, where neither one of these ports, they all have a little divot there. So you know, yeah, even in the back, I would assume so. It would be the same, but it's consistently a bigger space here. I really wonder about, you know, because I didn't swap the heads. I put the heads on exactly how I found them, on the same sides. So mainly because I had a brass plug I had to get out of here. It was a steel plug that was kind of rotted. I got it out, and I put a brass plug in there for the like the same area where the setting unit goes for the heads for the coolant. So if anything, the deck is more on this side, and maybe their intention was to actually swap heads, so that this one ended up on here and this one ended up on there, so it kind of evened out. But that's like hocus pocus. So whoever built the engine, whoever did the heads, I think they did not the right thing 100%. So I'm really hoping it's going to be okay. I've never seen it leak to that degree from such a small little area there. That's why I'm really thinking it's because the holes, like I said, I didn't have to force any of the bolts in, and I can't tell you how many setups I used to do when I was young, and I used to just shove in the bolts and force them in, and they would go in, you know. But a lot of that was with Oldsmobiles. They had the steel tin gasket, you know, and then I'd put the high performance material gasket, and the shit didn't want to fit. So it was more so of me using a thick gasket, where this one kind of needed a thinner gasket, if anything. So I don't know. Or like I was saying, a composite gasket might have been better to compress it more. But hopefully this all dries and it's all does what it needs to do and it cures. And by the time I get it running, it'll be fine. So we'll see. Oh, you're a mush. How come you're never this nice before? Oh. This is like a good 5 minutes. Which way? Okay, I got everything back together. I also figured out the alternator wire. I added a wire, and I put a T in the oil pressure sending unit. So the sending unit now you can see, but the other sending unit, I have one that turns on the choke, and then I added this guy right here and ran the wire through the harness, powering them both because it's an extra circuit, 15 amps, and put it right at the end of that solenoid there. So it's going to work out just fine. I just have to wait for the starter now to come in the mail. All right, switch is in. There's a little space here because when you tighten it, it kind of warps, but I had to fight with it a bit because I couldn't put it through the wiring clamp because you didn't make it big enough, like I asked you to. You made it the same size, just wider in one, but it had to be both. But even then, it wasn't the secondary hole. I had to really force the switch in. So I don't know if this thing got tweaked, but I just couldn't do it. I could not get it in the way you had it. It's not like the other one. There was a much bigger hole to get the switch in, so I was trying to put the switch in from all the way from the back, and even that way, because of the thing that holds the wiring, it was what do you call it? See, like this guy was little. I said make it twice as big, and you made it one direction but not the other. But even still, like I said, this hole was the right size for the switch to fit everything. And the one in this one was significantly smaller, but I got it in. I don't think it's unfortunate because it's really the best it's going to get. Because it tightened it and it kind of makes it go away. It's not really much I can do, but like I can hide a piece of black tape and wrap it around the machine. In a certain sense, but I'm sure it's fine. In the end, spacing seems to be correct. I can see all 3 screws just barely on the top here. And when I put the key on, key's on now, but you can hear the AC compressor click on when I force it on the bottom here. This is going to be normal operation. This is where you leave it most of the time. In the winter, you turn it off, so you can still operate the blowers. Okay. So, and I'm not 100% sure about the light there. I somehow remember it not going on. That like this one may be a different unit than the other one. That I had done. Because this gives power to the thing, but I thought it would turn off with... Oh yeah, look at that, the light turned off. So now when I go on, it didn't do it. I'm a little upset at that, but oh well. Just so you know what's on and what isn't, but it's probably wired just slightly different. The unit itself. So basically when you turn this down, that'll turn off. It's like you're not calling for the compressor, okay? So when the compressor is calling for, it'll light up, let you know the compressor's on. But in the down position, you just know it's on all the time. I just remember I thought when I forced it on, and I hear it clicking, that it would call for it. And then I put the wire, there's one fuse just for the unit, because the unit had a 15 amp fuse, which really covers the clutch as well. But the way I have the relays hooked up, I put a separate I got a separate fuse going on this fuse box, the bottom fuse there for the just the compressor. So that supplies power just to the relay for the compressor. And then there is a pink and a gray wire. The pink wire, well, first of all, I got the power going in that's spliced with the main power here when you have the key on. And that one just, it's normal operation. It's like as if you're putting it normal, the way it's meant to be hooked up. And the gray wire then just transfers the power from that and forces on the compressor. And that's only, like I said, if you're going to be using the heat and then switch over to AC, sometimes this thing gets so hot because we mentioned, and that's exactly what happened with the other car. The heat ducts come down, and the heat actually passes through here. And if it's anything like my other friend's car, where I had it right on top of the heater, I really couldn't do anything. You put it in the off position, and that way, I got to put the key on. So when you have the heat on, let's say you have the heat on over here, and it'll be blowing out the bottom, you can actually bring some of the air through here. And this thing here, will you hear it click on and off and stuff like that. This light will probably turn off completely, but that just goes to show you that it's working as it should, but it takes a long time. After you get this hot with physical heat, it doesn't really want to come off. It takes a while. So that's why I built this in to force it on so the compressor works and the whole thing gets cold, and then this thing cools off pretty quick, and then you go back to normal. Very rare occasion. Most of the time, you're just going to leave it in normal position, and that's it. Right now, I'll leave it on off. Very good. And just for shits and giggles, when you're standing here in the driver's seat, you can't see the space that's here. Yeah, it's a little bit off, because it actually starts to curve. Like I don't know if it would have needed a gusset of some sort, but or this needed to be thicker and then spaced this way more, like the bracket in the middle, and have a little bit of the thing hanging over that way. I don't know, but there's not much you can really do. I think it'll be fine, to be honest.